Greed and stupidity are the distinguishing features of Putin's regime. Their desires are absolutely limitless, but the ways they achieve them are utterly insane. But this time, in his stupidity and greed, Putin has outdone himself. He spat on the hand extended by Trump and laughed in the face of the notorious Donald. Even though Trump spent 2 months enduring any humiliation to befriend the dictator.
I think that I spoke with him. I've known him for a long time, you know. We went through the Russian hoax together. It was dishonest and unfair. It was a fabricated story that had nothing to do with Russia. I've known him for a long time, and I think that I don't believe he will break his word. I don't think he will go back. When we make an agreement, I believe it will be fulfilled. Now they will have security. You will have security, military presence.
Trump personally called Putin on various occasions, countless times. His officials spent hours negotiating with Kremlin terrorists and broadcasting idiotic Russian propaganda.
First of all, I think the biggest problem in this conflict is the so-called 4 regions: Donbass, Crimea, and, for now, you know the name Luhansk, and there are 2 others. They are Russian-speaking, yes. There were referendums where the overwhelming majority of people indicated that they want to be under Russian governance. Yes, I think this is a key issue in the conflict.
Why was he even released from the hospital?
America pressured Ukraine and Europe while promising the Kremlin rewards and even more rewards. Trump put on a helmet with a closed visor and, despite logic and facts, believed Putin that the cigarette butt wants peace and is about to agree to end the war.
Mr. President, what would you do if Putin violated the terms of the agreement on Ukraine, considering his history of not fulfilling international obligations?
I think he will keep his word.
First, Putin dragged out the negotiations by putting forward new and unrealistic demands. And then he declared that he would fight to the end.
Well, what's happening today is basically clear as well, along the entire line of combat contact. Our troops hold the strategic initiative, and there is every reason to believe, as I said quite recently, we will press them. There is reason to believe that we will finish them off.
The chief climbed onto a submarine and, apparently under the influence of decompression sickness, completely refused to recognize the Ukrainian government and demanded the introduction of external governance in Ukraine.
And in principle, of course, it would be possible under the auspices of the UN by the United States, even with European countries, and certainly with our partners and friends, to discuss the possibility of introducing temporary governance in Ukraine. And for what purpose? In order to hold democratic elections, to bring to power a capable government that has the trust of the people, and then to start a peace agreement with them.
And then Trump finally realized that he had been seriously deceived. It finally dawned on him in his old Tesla that Putin never intended to make peace and had been stringing along the 47th president of the USA all this time.
Hello? Is anyone home? Huh? Think, McLean?
As they say, better late than never. Initially, the White House administration stated that external control over Ukraine was utter nonsense. Literally, the governance system in Ukraine is determined by its constitution and the people of the country.
Oh, well done.
And then Trump himself got carried away. He called NBC journalists and stated that he was very angry with Putin and ready to impose oil sanctions from hell against Russia.
Just a few hours ago, President Trump called me and said, I quote, that he is angry with Russian President Putin and threatened to impose secondary tariffs on Russian oil. I quote, if Russia and I cannot agree on stopping the bloodshed in Ukraine, and if I determine that Russia is indeed to blame, which may not be the case, I will impose secondary tariffs on all oil coming from Russia. Mr. Trump said that a 25% e-tariff on Russian oil could be imposed at any moment, and he informed me that he plans to speak with President Putin this week.
Trump was very enraged by Putin's statement about Zelensky's illegitimacy and threatened to impose oil sanctions within a month. The US president has set a psychological deadline for Moscow to cease fire. It's clear that Trump doesn't want to pressure Putin. He still insists that he hopes for the honesty of the Kremlin dictator.
Yes.
But despite his inexplicable sympathy for the aggressor, Trump has no choice. He is forced to respond to Moscow's lies. The 100 days of governance are approaching, and the end of the war within 24 hours has still not occurred.
I was joking a bit when I promised to end the conflict in Ukraine within 24 hours.
The determination of the White House leader was also confirmed by the president of Finland, Alexander Stubb. He was visiting America and saw Trump's irritation firsthand. According to the Finnish leader, the US is already in the process of developing new sanctions against Russia, which will be implemented if Putin refuses a ceasefire or violates the truce.
And I don't think Putin wants a ceasefire. Putin does not want peace. His original objective was, in fact, to destroy the independent sovereignty and autonomy and territorial integrity of Ukraine, essentially to make Ukraine cease to exist. He has not changed his goals, and this is something we all need to understand. Therefore, we must increase the pressure on Putin, which means more sanctions, which means using frozen assets.
New oil sanctions could indeed finish off the leaky Russian economy. Moreover, they are beneficial to America itself. American economists propose introducing a universal tariff on the sale of Russian oil and gas. Sanctions will be imposed on anyone who sells Russian oil and gas in any country in the world. Secondary sanctions will target all participants in the transaction, including oil tanker owners, insurers, and buyers. And the first to suffer from this will be Indian and Chinese partners, the largest consumers of terrorist fuel. If Russia wants to avoid secondary sanctions, then according to economic experts, it will have to pay into the US Treasury a fee for each delivery. This payment has been called the Russian Universal Tariff, and it will increase with each week that passes without reaching a peace agreement.
Here then their count estimate.
Considering how Trump loves to make money and shouts on every corner that he will replenish the US budget, he won't miss such an opportunity. A real oil embargo is deadly for Putin's economy and all of Putinism. Even the highest Kremlin officials no longer hide the economic collapse. The head of the central bank, Nabiullina, stated that the Russian economy is making a soft landing.
About the fact that the economy rather is on a trajectory of a soft landing without sharp fluctuations.
When Russian officials start using newspeak, it means things are very bad. We would also add that the Russian economy is moving to more advantageous positions and making a gesture of goodwill.
In accordance with the approved plan,
revenues from oil and gas account for 1/3 of Moscow's entire budget. That's about how much the orcs spend on the war. So Putin will have to choose between feeding the population or sending them into meat assaults.
People, I always say, are a stupid, lazy, inert, basilic rabble. It is ready to endure for a lifetime. And the people won't rise up for anything. When the money runs out, they will go to steal from their neighbor. Do you think the people are that stupid? I repeat once again, our people are lazy, inert, stupid, cowardly rabble.
Another nail in the Russian coffins was driven by the OPEC countries. They agreed to increase oil production starting April 1st. Accordingly, the price will drop, and Mordor's economy is almost entirely dependent on energy prices.
Some want to become strong, achieve success in sports. Some definitely want to start doing business from a young age, absolutely from your age, and become rich. But why?
Russia has every chance to repeat the negative feat of the Soviet Union and collapse due to falling oil revenues. And this will not be a soft landing, but an elegant disintegration into atoms. The main thing is for Trump to remember that he is the president of the USA, not the crisis manager of the Kremlin dictator. Let's make Russia again within the borders of the Moscow region.
I would like to remind you that this video is created for entertainment purposes and contains elements of satire and irony. All facts and events are presented in a hyperbolized or exaggerated form to convey a comedic or dramatic effect. Our goal is not to mislead, but to highlight humor. Please take it with a smile.